How are we doing, everybody? I am Jeff Hoke, here with Kevin Perdios and Chris Henrique, and this is the Shorthanded Takes podcast, a Boston Bruins podcast brought to you by Couch Guys Sports and Shocked Energy. The season is upon us. The season is actually going on behind me right now. Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh are currently in the third period as we are recording this. Guys, are we excited for this season or what?
Yeah, it's good to have hockey back, hockey back in a full fashion. I know we had a little bit last year, but that was kind of a fake season, I guess. But yeah, excited to have a full year back at happening again.
Chris, you're down there. You're live. You're live. You survived your last one.
I'm off the injured list. So
yes, we needed. We missed you last week. We missed you.
Yeah, I was sick, so it wasn't COVID. So I dodged that bullet, but I was down for the count. I'm still not 100%, but we are better than last week. So,
and that's all that matters. And are you excited for this NHL season, or?
I am. It just hasn't really hit me yet that we have hockey because we're in the midst of a deep playoff push now with the Red Sox. And
there's something going on with the Red Sox right now?
Yeah, I heard something big. And the Pats are still going. So it hasn't hit just yet that the puck's going to drop in the season for the Bruins this weekend. But I think once these games get going and it's on TV on a regular basis and, once I think baseball is over, it'll kind of hit a little bit more for me right now. But I'm looking forward to this upcoming season.
I will say I am a fan of this ESPN on NHL thing. I was too young to remember the last time they were on. So I grew up with NBC, but I'm a big fan of Sean McDonough right now on the TV doing NHL games. It's a lot different and nothing against NBC. I just like the setup a lot better. It's not nothing too taking away from that. Before we get started, I want to read this. Ever feel unable to focus, tired, and just low on energy? We understand the feeling. We understand it so well that Shorthanded Takes, a Boston Bruins podcast, is brought to you by the Couch Guys Sports Network and now sponsored by our friends over at Shocked Energy. Shocked Energy is a drink made by gamers for gamers. All their flavors come packed with 180 milligrams of caffeine to ensure that no matter what you are doing, your focus will always be razor sharp. Head over to shockedenergy.com and use the promo code CGSN today. That is CGSN for 10% off your next order. Check out their green apple flavored box or even their watermelon flavored box. And don't worry, they ship worldwide. That's right, worldwide. Get your Shocked Energy drink today. Let us help you gain focus and get your energy back. That is code CGSN. Okay, guys. So before we get into our predictions for the season, the Boston Bruins play on Saturday, obviously, and they released their final roster the other day. Nothing really of big surprise that we have seen so far. The only surprise that obviously to me, and you guys were a little shocked too, that Jack Studnicka did not make the roster and John Moore did make the roster. Now, John Moore was injured last season. Missed, I think, all of last season. He maybe played a few games, not 100% sure. But with Studnicka apparently bulking up 15 extra pounds and actually looking pretty good in the preseason, he did not make the cut to start the season. Chris, I'm going to start with you. What is your opinion on this? Is this a good move, bad move, or what do you think is going to happen here?
So I don't mind it, and I'm going to tell you this is why. I think throughout the course of the preseason, the bottom six lines proved that they had some pretty good chemistry together as a team, and I don't think they want to disrupt that. I would rather see Studnicka get regular minutes down in Providence, and really the way that I kind of look at it is this. They're playing 82 games this season. They're not playing 56. So I would look at this first month, take a look and manage the schedule, and really just kind of manage your roster over the course of the first, even 6 weeks of the season. See where Studnicka is from there, and really see what Coyle can give you as that second line center in meaningful minutes, because the preseason really, fans are going to look at this. They're going to look at the wins and losses. They're going to look at how many goals are scored, but the talent evaluators are going to be looking at how do they play? How do the lines look? They're going to be looking at it from a deeper perspective than really just the casual fan is going to look at it. So let's get a look at what this team is going to look like playing real hockey, hockey that matters. Let Studnicka go ahead and continue to develop and take some time down in Providence, get that regular playing time. And then if Charlie Coyle isn't cut in the mustard and a legitimate second line center for them, and you got to make a move or someone gets hurt, Studnicka is going to be recalled, one of the first guys recalled. So I wouldn't get too caught up in it just yet. I think they're just trying to make sure that they're developing him the proper way and not just throwing him into a situation he's not ready for yet.
Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah. I think Chris is, me and him are going to be kind of on the same page here. At first, I kind of, when I heard it, it was kind of like, what are we doing here? Here we go again. Another kind of like, why are we going with a veteran, slower guy that, and John Moore over a young kid that's done everything you asked of him in the offseason. And, I was especially shocked because earlier in the week, they waived John Moore. They waived John Moore and Chris Wagner. So it was kind of like, you just waived the guy and then you're going to say he's good enough to be on the team over this 22-year-old who did everything you asked for him in the offseason. And that's kind of the initial gut reaction of like, what are we doing here? But once you kind of take that minute to sit back and think about it, like Chris was saying, it makes sense. This does make sense. Joe Haggerty, who's a guy I love to follow with, especially with like the Bruins stuff, had a very, very good point. And basically it was, Studnicka's not going to be one of your top three centers, right? Like he's not being out Bergeron. You want Coyle to be your second line center. And then you just brought in Halla, who's played pretty well. So are you going to stick Studnicka on the fourth line where he's going to play maybe 10 minutes a game? You know what I mean? So, or do you say, hey, go down to Providence, play on the first line there, play 15, 20 minutes a night, get your reps, get your ice time in, get your development going as well. And once one of these three guys drops or isn't playing well, you're right there. So get past that initial of like the initial gut reaction that every Bruins fan's going to have, because I had it as well, of what are we doing here? It does make sense. And it's a smart move. And it does seem like they're finally making the steps of like, okay, we really need to develop guys. We really need let's not force guys into situations where they don't need to be forced in. Like Studnicka would be wasted on the fourth line. Why would you have him down there? So for me, that's why I think it makes sense. And you could say move Hula. I don't even know how to say that dude's name.
It's Halla. You had it right the first time.
Okay. Halla down to the fourth line. Well, you're not going to pay a fourth line center $2.75 million. And if you did that, you're an idiot. So, it just, unfortunately, he was the odd man out, but it seems like it's almost a good problem to have. We've always been on the subject of, we don't really have many centers coming up. And if Studnicka really is and has shown that he's made the next steps, that's huge. So a couple games, couple weeks, month or two down in Providence, it won't hurt him. It will only help his development. So I think it's a good move.
And I was talking to one of my friends, Greg Hirsch, that he's a big Bruins fan, over text. And he was just saying how, just like you guys said, it was one of those, he no fit on the team right now. But as soon as there is an injury somewhere, he's going to be up immediately. John Moore, for instance, he might last one game for all we know. John Moore is a very injury-prone kind of guy that, there's a reason why they waived him at first. And then why they brought him back, God knows why. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But that's a question for another day. But I think when he does come up, I think he's going to make himself a name up here. And I think he's going to stick up here by the time he's done. Whether or not where he fits in, I think that's just another question to be answered later on when that time comes.
To kind of like go on more real quick, and because I too was surprised that he's on the roster, but thinking about it today, I thought about this. Think about how thin that they were during the postseason on a defensive. Like they were so thin and they were so hurt that I don't think that they can afford to lose defensemen within the program. I understand why they waived him. Someone wants to take on that money and take that cap. Yeah, by all means, waive him. That didn't happen, just like the Wagner piece. So, yeah, you bring the player back and maybe you get something out of him for the short period. He appears to be healthy for the first time during his Bruins tenure. The other piece, too, is maybe he can play on the right side and maybe can give them something on that side because they are still pretty thin on defense. When we go and talk about this team a little bit more as we go on with the show, like the defense really makes me nervous because I feel like that they're 1 or 2 injuries away where they just don't have the depth. And we've talked about in the past with a lot of the younger players too. I don't think they have the depth. So if he's healthy, maybe John Moore can give them something finally. And who knows? It could be a showcase too for the Beast. Be like, hey, look, we waived him. He's playing pretty well. Maybe we can get something for him. Who knows too? So, I think the biggest thing, and I'm kind of go back to what I said before, is just take a look at the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season. See how the calendar plays out. See how this team plays out. See how the roster starts to begin to gel with one another because there's a lot of new players too. And when some of these players come back off injury, and you get a better picture, because kind of spoiler alert, I think the Bruins are going to be competitive, but I don't think the Bruins are going to be a major player in the postseason. That's just a little spoiler alert. So,
Hey, nothing wrong with a little bit of spoiler. And that's good. It's a good point you made there. You talked about the defense. Actually, they had their first real practice this week. Fluto, who is a big Bruins follower, posted the lines today. Obviously, Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak, the first line, and Hall, Coyle, Smith is the second line. That's pretty much shored up. We're safe with that. So from there we go Debrusk, Holla, Foligno. Do we like that? Is that a good enough line for you guys?
I don't mind it as a third right now.
Yep, that'd be the third line right now.
To be honest with you, I think that Holla has played better than people expected. He's really one of those, like, he's not really like a big name player. So when he came in here to Boston, it's trying to understand what he was going to be like. I think he's played pretty well during the preseason. My only concern is that I think the player like him and even you talk about butchering names. I butcher this dude's name every time, Nick Foligno. I think they're going to be an adequate piece to this team, but my concern is, are they going to rely on these guys too much and they're going to have to do more that's outside their skill set, so to speak? I'm kind of happy that he's on the third line. I'm happy that both those guys are not elevated that second line. The key for me out of that whole line is what Debrusk is going to look like. Is Debrusk going to take a step forward? Because he took a step back last year, and he wasn't the player that we all envisioned he was going to be. This is a big year for Jake Debrusk. If he starts off slow or he struggles, that dude's out of here. He's going to be, he's not going to last long with this team, or this will be his last year here in Boston. And that's the last, legitimate piece out of that. And we talked about that a few weeks back, that, horrendous draft and what they got out of it. He's really the only piece that kind of, developed into anything. This is a big year for Jake. I kind of hope that he does rebound. I like him. I think he's a good player. I think he's streaky, and when he's hot, he's good. So that could be an interesting line for this team. That third line could be the interesting line for this team.
So Kevin, to you now, the biggest question we have, and I've seen this a lot on Twitter, the fourth line. And the fourth line pairings today were Frederick Bladai. However you pronounce that name, I can never pronounce. That's the name I can't pronounce.
I think it's just, isn't it like Blide?
Blide, maybe.
I could be 100% wrong, so I'm not like criticizing.
I know Chris doesn't know it either. I could tell by the look on his face. I'm not going to even try it.
I'm pretty sure it's Blide.
So I'm going to just say Frederick and Antoine, Nosek and Coleman. So I've seen a lot on Twitter of that, and the defensive pairings being Forbort, McAvoy, Riley, Carlo, Grizzlick, Clifton, and Zaboral with Moore. Does this worry you at all? Does that any of those pairings and the fourth line kind of give you a shudder down the back?
Uh, maybe, like the fourth line, I always look at the way I think of the fourth line and what I kind of want the fourth line to be and what it's been in the past is kind of that bully line, and what I mean by that is like they're gonna get going deep, they're gonna throw their weight around, they're gonna they're gonna lean on you for a little bit, and they're gonna really kind of put the pressure on you, and they're there for really to just throw their weight around, and hence Trent Frederick being down there, and we've talked before about the fact that Trent Frederick's the one that has to throw his weight around is a little concerning in of itself. But it's that idea of it seems that fourth line they want to keep with that MO of kind of going, knock someone's teeth in so that the perfection line, which I hate that word, but it's going to stick, I know, can come out and really kind of do what they want to do without, it provides a little threat of if you take a shot at one of these guys where we're going to come at you, and you're going to have to answer to it, which I think NHL in general has gone away from. But that's a topic for another day in of itself. But no, I was a little worried. I guess the only question mark or concerning thing I really looked at with the deep pairing was Carlo. I kind of thought Carlo was going to be that top line guy with McAvoy, and to see that they separated the two was interesting. They seemed like they wanted to get another kind of like stay at home two-way defenseman type player to match up with McAvoy, because as we know, McAvoy loves to rush the puck, so you need someone to stay back. I kind of figured Carlo with his size and ability was that guy, so I'm interested to see why they thought it was to move him to the second pairing rather than the first. But again, like Chris said, there's a lot of new pieces, there's a lot of new faces. See how this works for the first month and a half of the season, and so that's kind of why I'm not too worried. These guys, you got to trust the coaches for a little bit. Cassidy, criticize him all you want. Overall, does a pretty damn good job of getting this team to be very competitive and a good team. So, I'm having faith in what he's rolling out there.
Chris, I saw you nodding your head a little bit when I mentioned the lines. What do you have any input on that fourth line pairings?
So I don't mind the fourth line. The fourth line, that's your energy line, right? That's those guys that can go out there. They're going to give you that boost that you need. Kevin said it. If there's something happening on the ice, they're going to go and they're going to stick their nose into what needs to be, and kind of agitate the other team. Frederick, perfect guy for that. I think that line, the pairing that's there is going to do that. And that's why Jack Studnicka doesn't fit with that. They would just be a waste on that line. The defense concerns me because it's thin and the depth isn't there. And it's, looking at it, I don't mind Carlo on this in the second pairing. He said that last week, I think it was, that he wants to put the puck more on the net, and he wants to start to become more, a shooter too on the blue line. Well, break that up between him and McAvoy. Riley and Forbort, it's kind of the same player in my eyes. So if Carlo's going to do more shooting and try to be a little more of an offensive player on that defensive side, I don't mind him being on that second pairing. My concern though is the injury piece. But it's the freak stuff that happens with him, the concussion and everything else. Again, to me, guys, it's going to be the health of that defense. They're out of my concerns for this Bruins team. They're my number 2 concern overall for this roster. Hopefully they can be healthy for the full season, but who knows too? Guys are going to get waived. They, remember last time they picked up Tenorti. He was a decent little, fill-in, stuff like that. They're gonna make moves and do things like that, but just off of the 6 that are gonna be there, and then the 2 potential backups. That's why I think Moore is an important piece to that puzzle.
Yeah, I'm just gonna this is gonna be more of a conversation as well, Chris. I agree, Carlo, him wanting to be him wanting to be more offensive is one thing. Him actually having the ability to do it is a completely different thing. I'm not questioning that guy's ability to shoot the puck. I've always, towards the end of Chara's career in Boston, I was always like, why aren't you shooting it? You have the hardest slap shot, and you're deferring to, not to bash on Torrey Krug, but you're deferring to Torrey Krug. Chara, just shoot the puck. If you hit someone, so what? Like, make them reconsider blocking the shot. Make them have that thought in their mind, oh, this is going to hurt. I really don't want to do this again tonight, whatever. So I think Carlo has that ability. He's a big dude that can really put something behind the shot. My question is, does he have the ability to get back? If that shot gets deflected, if that, what transpires of that puck not going to the net? Does Carlo have the ability with his size and, lack thereof of speed to get back? McAvoy, with his size, he can move a little bit, so it works. Can Carlo? That's kind of why the question's there to be seen. That's why when I look at Carlo, I picture him as Chara 2.0, sit at the blue line, let off some rifles of slap shots, but you're the first line of defense, for lack of a better word.
And last thing I'll say is, if you're Carlo, you just signed that big deal too, 4 years, 5 years, and you can't really afford to get injured from here on out, because you look at it, you gave a lot of money to a guy that is concussed a lot, that is injured a lot, and I love the guy. He's a fighter. He is a player. He's a fantastic defenseman when he's healthy. If he can stay healthy, it's a great deal. If he can't stay healthy, then we're a whole different story. And the last thing I want to mention too, and I'm not looking too far ahead into this yet, but the pairing for the goalie today, Swayman was that first goalie today. Just something to keep an eye on. Kevin and I talked about last week the possibility of him possibly stepping into that role on Saturday over Linus Ullmark, who struggled obviously in the preseason, but we will obviously see when that time comes. But Swayman was that first goalie today. It might change tomorrow. They might try to flip it back and forth. I don't know. Bruce Cassidy is a different kind of man when it comes to that kind of stuff, so I'm not going to worry about that. So what's up?
So Jeff, I honestly, the goaltending situation is my number one concern for this team.
Is it really? Okay, go ahead. Give us a reason. Go ahead.
So, they spent real money, starter money, on Ullmark. And again, I did say earlier when we talked about the preseason, it's not about the wins and the losses. It's not about the goals against average. It's not about save percentage. It's about the mechanics. It's how the player looks, things along those lines, getting your reps in, getting ready to go for the season. But he just didn't look good. So I want to see how he looks playing meaningful hockey games. But when Swayman is still out playing you, it's almost like, are they not putting the respect on Swayman that he deserves? Like, I know it was a small sample size last year, but the kid could play, right? And it's now the preseason, and the kid can still play. So the fact now that your $4 million goalie, a $4 million a year goaltender may not start on opening night, that's telling to me. That is extremely telling to me. It tells me that Ullmark needs to play his way into that starter's role when he should be the starter. You paid him like the starter. He should be a starter.
Which is something they probably did not expect coming in.
No.
Obviously.
And that's a concern to me. And that's why I think the goaltending piece, again, you get into the postseason and you get a hot goaltender, like you're miles ahead from everybody else. We've seen it in almost every single postseason for hockey. It's escaped me. Who the goaltender for the Blues the year that was it Bennington? That just he got hot and then bam.
Yeah, he came from the Bruins. That was the whole thing. The Bruins let Bennington go, or was it he was in the system, and the Bruins let him go.
Yes. No. Yep. You're right. Yep.
So
I remember that now.
I guess my worry would be is that you went out, you identified Ullmark as that player to replace Rask. I'm sorry, but you did. the thing with me is like, I think it's time to move on from Rask, but you knew what you got with Tuukka. You like when you had Tuukka Rask during the regular season, you know what kind of player he was going to be. You know how many games he was going to play. You knew how many wins you were really going to get out of him. You knew what the peripherals were going to look like. You knew what the numbers were going to look like. Now you've moved on. You had to. He was hurt. We're getting to that point. You have to turn the page. You bring in the next guy, and the next guy sucks right now. And I think it's a valid concern that a lot of Bruins fans are going to have. Again, they haven't even dropped the puck on the season, and I'm not going to write off Ullmark because I think he's a talented player. I'm just concerned in that situation because after Swayman, you traded Vladar to Calgary. I don't necessarily think that they're loaded down there from that perspective of if Ullmark is just, if this dude's a wet fart and it's done, like, what are they going to do? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but I do feel that the goaltending situation is my number one concern for this team because what I don't want the Bruins to do is to go ahead and sign a Tuukka Rask and have to insert him and rely on him to be your one when your one is getting paid like one and he sucks.
Yeah.
And-
so
go ahead.
I just wanted, I'm going to jump on that real quick. I agree, Chris, there's a concern there, right? Like that should be concerning, but look at it as the other way. Like look at it as now, if you wasted that $4 million, like you're saying on Ullmark, which I agree, if he's a backup, why are you paying him to be the backup? But look at who's making the decisions. Cassidy right now is just looking as, I don't give a shit that you paid him. I'm playing the best roster in front of me. Like, I don't care how much money you paid that guy.
I think more coaches need to do that, to be honest.
Right. And
I think he's got the stones to do it, which I appreciate.
For me, that's a breath of fresh air. Like, good. Eliminate the money. I don't care. That's not on Cassidy. Cassidy didn't go in and be like, yep, I'm going to pay you. Like, he's not Bill Belichick and making these. He's not the GM and the coach. He's given a roster and he's doing the best he can with it. I thought towards down the end, he didn't do that enough in the postseason. I thought he should have done that with Rask. He knew Rask was hurt. Don't put it in Rask's hand. Part of being a coach and being an effective coach is pulling when you have to do it. Hey, I have to do this. And so for me to see that Cassidy's kind of like, screw it. I don't care how much money you paid this guy. Swayman's playing better. He's going to start. Bottom line. That's for the management to figure out. I'm doing what I think is best for this team. If they don't like it, fine. But if you wasted money on Ullmark, that's not going to fall on Cassidy. That's falling on Sweeney. So
I don't disagree. I look at it from the climate of this area, and you're going to have that portion of the fan base that's going to hone in on that dollar, and they're going to say, well, you paid Ullmark $4 million. He wasn't a $4 million a year goaltender. Is David Krejci playing overseas because he wants to be close to his family, or is it because you didn't want to pay him? And could some of that money go into David Krejci? And I'm not. That's not me saying it. That's not my take. I'm saying that there's going to be that the cesspool of Twitter that what that is. There's going to be a fan that's going to think that. There's going to be someone who's got some cachet in the Boston media that's going to say that, and it might bring some validity if the player isn't playing well. Right.
But say Swayman plays well. Say Swayman, is a stud. And now it kind of nullifies that take. It kind of is like, well, we're winning. So winning puts a protective bubble wrap over that take. Well, we're winning, you're just nitpicking, like you're just trying to find something that's wrong with this team, like kind of go away type of thing.
It's what they do with the Red Sox.
But I don't want to we'll keep going on a rant here all night. I think it's a good conversation to have, but
it's a great conversation to have. And last thing I'll add to this is, you let Yaroslav Halak go. I'm not saying he's the best goalie, but if you wanted to keep Swayman in as a starting goalie, you could have had Yaroslav Halak as that backup, as that second goalie, because now where is he now? I think Vancouver or wherever he is now. He's backing up whoever the starting goalie is over there, and they're doing a 1-2 pairing over there. He's not getting paid $4 million a year. it's just baffling to me. I'm with you guys though. I love the fact that Cassidy's putting his foot down, and I think he learned from starting Rask in that final game of the postseason that they lost. And I think he kind of regrets doing that. And I think he kind of is taking a new step in the new direction with that. But, we'll find out Saturday. It should be interesting who starts, and should be an interesting season for the goaltending. Like Chris said, that's his number one issue with the team. But going forward, what's
Concern.
that? Concern. Concern, I should say. Yes. My apologies. So let's we'll step away from the Bruins talk for a few minutes. And last week we said that we were going to go over some predictions for the NHL season. I know Chris has been working hard on finding every answer for this, and he is very ready. Kevin has too, but I think Chris has been working harder because he did this while at work. I am very impressed with it. I'm very impressed. So we're going to start off. Where do we want to start here? Okay, so let's start off with some of the awards here. MVP. I could go trophy names, but I can't remember the trophy names up the game. But MVP. Chris, you go first. Give us your MVP and why.
Connor McDavid. And I think this season he's going to set the all-time points record in the regular season. And that's why he will be the MVP of the NHL. The dude is the best player in the league, and he's being wasted in Edmonton. But I just love what he does. He's such a dynamic player. And if he's healthy and he doesn't get hurt and he doesn't miss time because of a COVID scare or anything like that, I think Connor McDavid has the potential to net 150 points this year. Bold statement. I think he's that kind of player.
And he's like the only one that scores on that team, really. So you said that Edmonton team is pretty bad, and they are, and he's stuck up there for the foreseeable future.
Because they've had so many first rounds. Oh wait, Peter Chiarelli. Sorry, I'll just stop there.
Kevin, well, you go ahead. What's your prediction?
Yeah. So I love the Connor McDavid pick. I do. But I'm just going to put it simply as Edmonton is going to be the reason he doesn't win it. That place is just like, that's where your soul goes to die. They're in Buffalo. It's kind of pick your poison. And, my pick is going to be Nathan MacKinnon out of Colorado. The way I kind of look at it is the way I like to pick MVPs and, kind of guys that should win those type of awards is how well does your team do? Not necessarily the stats that you put up, because you could put up, Ovechkin can score 50 something goals a year, but if he's a minus 40, that should tell you something in and of itself. That to me was the most baffling stat a few years back. He scores 53 goals, but he's a minus 50. His plus minus is minus 50, which is like, how does that happen? But for me, Nathan MacKinnon, because I do think Colorado is legit this year. I think they're going to be a team that goes pretty far. I'll tell you how far I think they go here in a few minutes, but I do think they go pretty far. And I think Nathan MacKinnon being your really number one guy, they kind of have two or three guys over there that you could say are their best players, but I think MacKinnon being there the longest is going to be the guy they look to kind of carry that team. And I think he has a big year, and he ends up winning the MVP.
Go ahead.
Here's the plus. Well, it's like that. Well, so the negative with MacKinnon right now is he's going to miss the season opener because of COVID. The positive though to all that is Gary Bettman today announced that there's only 4 players in the entire NHL that are not vaccinated. That the league is 4 players away from being 100% vaccinated, and the Colorado Avalanche are 100% vaccinated. And he's asymptomatic and he's feeling good, so he's not going to miss a ton of time. So at least the NHL has that piece, what it appears to be under control, and that COVID isn't going to be something that's probably going to derail them or cause players to miss a shit ton of time like it has, and we've seen in some other sports. But I agree. I to be honest with you, I had MacKinnon up there. I do think that the Avalanche are a solid team. I'm not going to call them a wagon, but I think they're a solid team, and I think that they're a dark horse. They're not my dark horse, like they're not my pick to come out of the Western Conference, but I think they're a dark horse this year, and I think they are loaded with talent. And I think you're right. I think McKinnon could put the pressure on McDavid. There's a lot of really good young stars out in the Western Conference. So it'll be really interesting and really exciting to see, who kind of emerges. But he's a solid player. He's an absolute solid player. The kid's a stud.
Yeah, no, I like both of your choices. If I had to choose one of them, though, because I didn't really do the research you guys did, I was going to let you guys do your thing. I was just going to guide you. I would also go with Connor McDavid on that note because of the team he's on. And if you really want to call it the MVP, he is the reason why that team is where that team is at. He's the only reason why they made the playoffs last year because he literally put them on his back and carried them all the way there with 100+ points in a 56 game season for that matter. And I mean, if he does that in 56 games, Chris is right. He can get that 150.
In 82. If he's healthy, what's he going to do in 82?
Exactly. And that's scary to think too, if you really want to go that way. Rookie of the year. This is actually a really interesting one because there are some good choices. If I had to choose one though, I'm going Cole Caulfield. I see you guys agree with me. I'm guessing you guys chose the same one that I did because this kid was a stud last year and it wasn't even his rookie year last year. He didn't even play a full rookie season last year. And to think of what this kid did with the Montreal Canadiens to take them to the Stanley Cup, regardless win or loss, and what he did in the Stanley Cup, I don't think there's any question that it's going to be Cole Caulfield to win this.
I agree. Here's what sucks, right? Montreal is loaded with really good young talent.
Yep.
Montreal isn't making the playoffs this year, though. That's my bold prediction.
Ooh.
They're not getting in.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
Yep.
But
Well, you're back to the tougher divisions this year too. So
exactly. That's 1. 2, though. Kid's 20 years old.
Yep.
Last season, he in the postseason, a 22 postseason games, 12 points, 4 goals, 8 assists. He was a difference maker on there for Montreal. And you're right. He is, in my opinion, one of the leading favorites to win the Calder Trophy. There's a lot of really good young players this season. I like this kid a lot. Montreal, a lot of good young players. That is a team that's on the come. I think they just last year was an anomaly. It was weird because the 56 game schedule, who had to play who, that sort of. But like now they're going to play the Eastern Conference and the divisions. They're back. I just don't think Montreal has enough horses to do it. But again, who knows? I don't have them getting in. But that kid's going to be special. I think they're a year off from being a legitimate regular contender for the postseason. Montreal's done a very, very good job. And it sucks to say that because, like Montreal is like the Yankees out here when you go and talk about them. But it'll be exciting if this team can be good and good consistently again and that can battle with the Bees because that's a rivalry that it only seems to ignite when we get into the postseason.
And he's not, I know this kid I'm about to mention isn't a rookie, but Nick Suzuki and Nick Suzuki are good for that team. And like you said, they're going to be good for years to come once they can get over that little bit of a hump. And Kevin, you agreed with it, correct?
Yeah, I got one. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
It's the Carey Price factor. If he's going to miss substantial time, if Carey Price is healthy, I maybe amend that and say, okay, Montreal can maybe sneak in the bottom of the conference. When you're again, it's back to goaltending. So that's going to be the make or break with that team. They have good young talent. I think again, I'll let you go in a sec. This young kid's gonna be part of that.
Yeah, I have Cole down as well, Caulfield down as well, because I think the way I look at it is I wrote 2 names down. One, Caulfield, we already kind of all agree that this dude's probably or should be the front runner for it. There's another name that's kind of further down the list, and I don't know when the last time this has happened. So you guys, it could have been last year, 2 years ago. I have no idea. Spencer Knight down in Florida, the goaltender for the Panthers. All right. Like Chris just said, it comes down to goaltending. This kid's legit. Like he's good, like very good. He's a very good goaltender. When he was with the Olympics, you kind of watched and you're like, wow, this guy's single-handedly holding USA in contention for a gold medal in the Olympics or World Juniors, whichever one of those tournaments it was. I like him a lot, and I think Spencer Knight, the winner of this, is going to be, I think, who makes the playoffs. Does Montreal get into the playoffs? If so, Caulfield's going to be a huge reason. Does Florida surprise a lot of people? And do they make that jump of going deeper into the postseason? I know a few people think they're already going to get in, but how deep do they go? And like Chris said, it comes back to goaltending. I think Spencer Knight is going to play a big role with the Florida Panthers this year. And I think he's going to put his name in contention. I don't know when the last time a goalie's won Rookie of the Year, but if there was going to be a goalie to do it, I think it's going to be Spencer Knight.
I like it. Really quickly, I know Chris wants to get to this, and we're running. Really, we're jabbing away, and I love it. We don't get this a lot. Comeback player of the year. I know Chris has one that is sneaky good, or he has a sneaky good one. So let's just hear what it is, Chris.
I don't think the player's sneaky good, but I like it. So I'm a wrestling fan. I'm not super passionate about wrestling, but I'm always a heel at heart. I'm going to go Tony D'Angelo because he signed a 1 year in Carolina. He has an absolutely troubled past. He struggled in New York. He has that history of just not being a really good guy. So he's got the troubled past. Again, struggled in New York, struggled in New York media. There was the possible burner account on Twitter, which is covered on Couch Guy Sports, so you should check it out. I think it was so there is that history with him. I think at 25 years old, I hate to say it, this kid's gonna go to Carolina, and this could be one of his last chances. So I think he needs to go down there. He needs to prove himself, and he's a talented player. He's a talented player. I think that if he can get his head screwed on right, I think D'Angelo has the possibility of being a comeback player. Now, is he going to win the actual award? The way that the world is right now, like when you screw up and you say something you're not supposed to, or you do something you're not supposed to, like John Gruden, it's not going to end well for you, and it takes some time to rehabilitate yourself. So I think he will be a comeback player. Does he win the award? Probably not. The other person that I was going to throw on there was going to be Homer and Cliche, because I've been a little critical on this podcast would be as if Tuukka Rask comes back. Maybe Tuukka is healthy and his hip's fine, and he's a difference maker if he goes to Boston, or maybe he signs somewhere that there's a team that has an opportunity to win a cup, and he could be a decent complementary piece to the goaltending unit. But because I'm a heel at heart, I'm going to go Tony D'Angelo. I don't endorse what he does, but heel at heart, Tony D'Angelo.
And if you listen to the last podcast with Kevin and we did talk about the possibility of Rask not coming back, or what could happen with that situation. Really quickly though, Kevin, what's your comeback player of the year?
Yeah, I think really I struggled with this up until beginning of the show, until really talking to you guys before we started this. Jack Eichel, that Jack Eichel is a guy that, I feel like because last year was such a weird year, and he's in the dumpster fire of an organization, and the, choice words of the city he's in Buffalo. It's just where hockey players go to die. That organization has no idea what they're doing, but people forget that he was hurt. He had the neck injury for a while. I think I forget which one of you pointed out. He only played in like 20 games, only had like 2 goals. So people forget how good that guy is. I like and follow college hockey. I went to Merrimack College, which is a D1 program. So Jack Eichel, when he was a true freshman, came in with BU, and we saw him play, and it's a different animal. Obviously it's a different jump from the NHL to college, or from college to the NHL, but just seeing the skills that guy has is unbelievable. So I think people forget of how good he actually is. And this year He will not be in Buffalo to finish the year. That's a fact. He will get dealt at some point. And when he does, it's going to rejuvenate him even more. And I think he will win the comeback player of the year because he'll go on a tear.
I like it.
I
I
think
do.
I call it for what it is. He wants to be in Boston. He was the Red Sox game the other night.
I was just gonna say that he was.
So that we could talk about that on another podcast. That could be a topic.
That could be because he was there with the team.
What would that take? What do you do? Like, what's the haul you're willing to do for that? Because, oh my God.
Studnicka straight up. Studnicka straight up.
But it's going to be, so hold on. Let's go back. Wait a minute. All right. What if Studnicka turns, we're going to have this very brief. Yes or no? Studnicka, you're probably going to have to throw in a legitimate guy. You're going to probably have to throw in another like veteran type prospects, draft picks, all that as well. But what if Swayman's part of that deal? Do you include Swayman in part of that deal? If Studnicka does well in Providence, Swayman does well in Boston, and you know Tuukka's coming back, do you include him in a potential deal to get Eichel?
I'm gonna say no on that one. As much as I love Eichel, I'm gonna say no on that one because Tuukka's at that age where, hey, I told you this last week too, with the hip, it's hard to come back from an injury like that.
So, but even more, you paid Allmark. So now we're back to you paid Allmark.
Yeah.
And so what are we doing? Are you going to sit Swayman on the bench for 4 years?
No, if I'm Bruce Cassidy, I put your foot down and you find something else to do with Allmark. Chris, what yes or no on that?
So I'm gonna say yes, but I'm also gonna say no because it's
God.
So in my notes of stuff to talk about, I made a note saying that I don't want the Boston Bruins to sacrifice their future for this season because I don't think that they're good enough to win a Stanley Cup this year.
Yep.
Now, there's a chance that next year Patrice Bergeron could leave this team. That's your number one line center. You have nothing to replace him. Is it going to happen? Maybe not. But as of right now, Patrice Bergeron could pack his bags, retire, or he could go somewhere else. Did anybody actually think that Zdeno Chara was going to go somewhere else in the last season? No. And it happened. Sweeney is not afraid to go ahead and move on from people, whether you're wearing the C, the B, whatever it is you're wearing. Like he's not afraid to say, okay, you know what? It's time to move on. So what's the backup plan? Now, Marchand, yeah, he'll probably be the next captain, but what's your backup plan? You don't have a number one line center. So if Jack Eichel is available and you could get him and he is healthy, then yeah, I would trade Studnicka. I would trade Swayman. I would make those moves. That's why I'm saying it's a yes and no, because I don't want them to trade their future, because that future and what they need to go ahead and utilize those assets to potentially bring over. But if you can get a Jack Eichel type player and he's healthy, and let's say Bergeron doesn't return, he slides in and now you have your one line center, you have a player that wants to be there, and it's another building block for this team for the rest of Eichel's career. So it's one of those, like, you can't have your cake and eat it too type of thing. Huh. But if you're telling me that you could get Jack Eichel and he's your insurance for your future, make the move. But I'm not giving up Pasternak. I'm not giving up, your key players. If it means Studnicka, Swayman, and a pick, depending on the pick, I'm not giving a 1, not with those players. I'll give you a 3. You're going to really have to twist my arm for a 2. I think Eichel has more control over this than I think it's being onto, because he could just keep saying, like, neck injury, all this other crap. He could put Buffalo in a vice too on this whole situation. Taylor
Hall situation.
So that whole thing is just wild up there, and it just you want to talk about complete mismanagement of an asset. You know what I mean? Like Belichick has mismanaged assets. Examples: Stephon Gilmore. The Buffalo Sabres have mismanaged Jack Eichel, and that's a shame, because that is a young, talented hockey player that has and the neck piece scares you because it's a neck.
Yeah, exactly.
when you mess with your neck, like that shit scares me. You know what
Especially
I mean?
in hockey too. One hit, literally anywhere, you're done.
So
You look at Peyton Manning in
exactly,
football.
you know what I mean? So not like trying to be like the fanboy here, but if you can legitimately go out and get someone like a Jack Eichel talent, knowing that you have some aging players, I think you have to make a move, or you have to be in the conversation, and you have to be willing to sacrifice some of the players that you have. And then, but if you know that you're going to get Bergeron back and he's going to hang around for a bit, then no, don't make the move, and then go and try to develop or find who's going to be the replacement for Patrice in the future. So I think they get time, but I also think they don't get time. It's like a weird time for the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, they're right in the middle of that weird. It's not a rebuild, but it's like you're coming off of a weird season where you made it far, but you're rebuilding kind of. It's weird. So we'll move on to I'll combine these two because you can really do that. Who was that team? And I'll start with you, Kevin. Who was that team that's gonna shock us this year? And who was that team that is gonna disappoint us the most this year? I know we talked about Montreal not making it. Maybe that's your pick for disappointment. But who was that team that's going to shock you and that team that's going to disappoint you?
I think for the shock, it might not be a huge shock. Like I do think Florida, the Panthers are legit. Like I think I fully believe in Spencer Knight. So you kind of, especially in the AHL, you go as your goalie goes, and I think he's legit. He's gonna have his blimps where it's he's a rookie goaltender. He's gonna make mistakes and it's gonna cost him games, but he's gonna put them in a better spot than people expect. Like he's going to carry that team and play well enough to get that team to a level that they don't expect anyone to, or they don't expect the Panthers to be at. They're not, like, by all means, I'm not saying they're going to win the East or win the Stanley Cup, but they're going to be in more of a contention than people really imagine. For the disappointment, this might just be because I can't stand this city at the moment, or but the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to be the disappointment of the year. I just, karma's a bitch. All right. So you can say all you want about, what they pulled for them to get to win the Stanley Cup last year was straight BS.
I have no problem.
It was a loophole. It was a Bill Belichick loophole. It was legal, but being on the other side, if I was Sweeney and I found that loophole, I would do the same thing probably. But I think karma is a bitch, and karma is going to come back and bite them in the ass. And I think Tampa Bay's they're still going to make the playoffs, but they're not going to be around in the Stanley Cup final, which everyone expects them to win again. I don't think they're sniffing past the first round.
I thought you were going to bring up the fact that the Tampa Bay Rays ordered champagne early in game one, or the popcorn eating in game one was going to bite them in the ass. But hey,
I didn't even I saw the article about why they were eating it. I was like, I'm not reading this. I'm not reading it.
Nope. Don't do it. Don't do it.
The organization that Tampa Bay put on their fence in the beginning of the playoffs that they're playing half their home games in Montreal. What do you do? Oh my God, that
was an important thing for them to do too. Think about that. That was a big deal down in Tampa. That was a controversial thing talked about down there. It didn't get a lot of press with us up here, but down there it did.
Yeah.
And they purposely waited for the postseason for that signing announcement.
Plus, they thought they were going to make it pretty far in, so there was.
Yeah,
you can have that or right through the World Series, maybe.
You know what? I talked to one of my friends because everyone, the Rays won 100 games. They're a fluked team. What happened with this series exposed it. They literally have two starting pitchers. If you get games 3, 4, and 5, that's where depth comes in. How deep are you? And it shows, they weren't pitching wise really that deep. But
please tune up, because Into the Triangle records tomorrow night, and we're going to be going over all of the huge, unbelievable Red Sox victory. I'm still in shock by it. I am incredibly excited. I have to just gotta say while we're on the program here, it's probably not gonna listen. He's not a big hockey guy, but Matty Kiwoom, he did say earlier this year, in our previous endeavor on a podcast that we shall not be named, he did say that the Boston Red Sox were going to win the World Series, and I poo-pooed on him, and and I texted him last night, and I said, Matt, I believe. So
Chris, I'm going to leave it at this. You don't have to answer. You can text me off the podcast. If you need a guest, I would love to get on that. I would love to get on that with you. And there's a name of the person that's on that podcast that I would love to just kind of
poo on.
Yeah, poo on, and maybe not be like, I told you so way back before the season started, but just putting it out there.
That we
show it is the as you can, and I'm gonna do this in a second when I give you my my disappointment, shock, and all that other stuff. But it has not been the negative as I thought it was going to be, and I'm really looking forward to what can be, if any of it can be spun on there. So, and what it will be like. So, for everybody's going to listen to this podcast, and the Triangle will be dropping later this week. I think Thursday, right before the beginning of the ALCS. So the Red Sox are actually going to win the ALCS in 6 games. So
look at that segue. I love that segue between those two. Chris, give us your disappointment and surprise.
So my disappointment, we're going to be so surprised that the Boston Bruins are going to disappoint us. So I'm putting them together, and I'm going to tell you why. The Bruins are 2 years removed from being presidents. They won the President's Trophy, right? They have 2 straight years of being bounced in the playoffs. 2 straight years. They were bounced last year. Goaltending was an issue. They were thin on defense, which leads me into this. Goaltending is a question mark. I feel that the goaltending, and I said it earlier in the show, that's my number one concern for this team. What's life after Tuukka going to look like? We're going to find that out very soon. Puck drops Saturday. We're going to see whether it's Swayman or Ullmark and how those two players are. It appears from the way that we are looking at it that Swayman is probably the better option of the two. I don't disagree, but and I understand Kevin's take in regards to don't care about the money, and I understand that. But I'm just gonna say this from the perspective of the fan who's gonna put the whole money thing out there. You're paying $4 million for a guy that probably doesn't need to make that money. 2, Charlie Coyle needs to replace David Krejci. Can he do that? This is a big season for Charlie Coyle. He's getting paid, again, money. He's getting paid like a second-line center. He needs to replace David Krejci because he's not coming back. David Krejci's not walking through those doors. Jake Debrusk, he needs to rebound. This is a big year for Jake Debrusk. He needs to step up and needs to be a consistent force and factor on the third line. If not, Sweeney needs to trade him. There needs to be no bullshit with that, and Sweeney needs to move on from him if he's not the right piece for that third line, because the Bruins can't afford to have Jake Debrusk scoring 6 goals this year. Can't happen. He can't be streaky. He needs to be consistent. The Bruins need that out of Jake Debrusk. So I need him to step up. Nick Foligno and Eric Halla, I think that they're going to be adequate pieces. I think they're going to be consistent players. My concern, are they going to be asked to do too much? And that's going to expose those guys. Take that for whatever it is. You have to step up because other guys aren't performing. Again, Jake Debrusk, things along those lines. You know, you have your perfection line, quotations, and I do hate that saying as well. I don't like that at all. But, you know, if Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasta are healthy, probably the best line in hockey or one of the best lines in all of hockey. Problem is, they're getting up there with age. Marchand's not really showing much signs of slowing down, but 33 years old, at some point, time works against you unless you're doing the TB12 method. So I think that the first line, they have a really strong, solid offensive attack. Second line's the question mark because of the center. I like the 2 bottom lines. Last but not least, Charlie McAvoy. Is the contract going to be an issue? Is the contract going to be a distraction? If the team plays bad, are we going to talk about that? Is the media going to use that as an excuse? Are they going to put it to bed and sign this dude? And then my only other piece would be is don't trade away your young assets and your young tradable pieces to go ahead and get a veteran player, because you're not going to go that far unless you can go out and get a Jack Eichel. So the Bruins are going to be, to me, a disappointment. And that's going to shock us because there's going to be some high expectations. People are going to think this is a Stanley Cup contender. I think that they are a Stanley Cup playoff team to get into the playoffs. I don't think they have enough to go ahead and win the cup.
I like it. I like it. So 2 more quick things. I want to obviously go over who wins the cup here in just 1 second. Then we're going to close out with a couple of predictions. So Chris, after that rant, which I loved, it's fantastic. I loved it. With that being said, obviously the Bruins aren't winning the cup to you, so we're not gonna. That's off the side now. For you, who wins the cup this year, and who do they beat? Like, who's the 2 teams and who comes out of the East and who comes out of the West?
I think that the Eastern the finals, it's probably going to be. So my shock team, I think it's Toronto. I think Toronto, they have a ton of talent. So I'd like to see Toronto and the Islanders duke it out if the Bruins can't be that team to get there. I ultimately think that I just think that Toronto has a lot of really good young talent, and they're just too good to not be good, so to speak. I feel like that the Maple Leafs were cruising until Tavares got his, knee to the head. And I feel like that ultimately altered the series. So there's a lot of really good talent in Toronto. So I like the Maple Leafs, but they don't win the cup. The Western Conference is going to win the cup. So I think the Maple Leafs, but I think the Bruins, they get in, but they're done by at least the second round max.
Okay. Kevin, what is your prediction to win the cup? And wait, who's the team for you to win?
Oh, to win the cup, I think it's going to come down to the Vegas Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche, and I like the Knights.
Okay, I like the Knights too, honestly.
So I'm gonna say the Vegas Golden Knights are going to hoist Lord Stanley's cup over their head, and I was not paid as well by Josie. That she has no idea that I actually even chose them. So, but
maybe we'll make her watch the full hour just to get to the predictions.
We're making her get on the show. That's the issue.
No, when that time comes, we will get her on the show. Don't you worry. Go ahead, Kevin. What's your East, West, and Stanley Cup winner?
All right. So like I really do agree with everything Chris is saying, and it's gonna sound like such a homer take.
Oh, he's gonna say Bruins. All right.
Bruins are coming out of the East, and here's why. Hold on though. Here's why. As constructed right now, you're exactly right. They're a playoff team, but are they really going to get, like, can you expect them to get by first, second round? I agree. But you keep saying the entire show, unless they go and do something. Well, that's something's going to happen. They're going to go get Jack Eichel by the end of the season. And I think that's their move, because while Chris, you're exactly right on the rational thinking of how it should be, of, Bergeron, Marchand, Passer, they're all kind of, you don't want to say the window's closing, but the window's closing. And I think the front office is feeling that pressure of, wow, we haven't won a cup in 10 years, going on 11. So we have to do something. We have to do something now to get another cup in here. And I do think they whether Eichel helps the situation on what goes back, but they do pull the trigger on it, because I think, like you said, he wants to be here. And that's the move that puts us over the top. Again, it probably jeopardizes our franchise 2, 3, 4 years from now. But I think they're willing to trade, win now and sacrifice 4 years from now, versus let's just keep riding this train and hope for the best. So I have the Bruins coming out of the East if they make the Jack Eichel move. If not, obviously I'm right there with Chris. They'll first, second round probably be bounced. Our West predictions are actually very similar. I was choosing between the Knights and the Avalanche. I'm riding the Avalanche train. I don't know why. I just my gut is saying that they're going to be a very good team, and they're constructed well enough to a deep playoff run and hold up, that I think Colorado Avalanche win the Stanley Cup. I don't want to pick the Bruins because that you're a homer, but as of right now, Colorado Avalanche win the Stanley Cup.
And I will say really quickly before we close out, I don't know why I'm doing this. I am though. I'm gonna pick the Islanders to win this year. They're taking that one step. I knew Kevin was gonna disagree with this one. I knew he was gonna hate me for this one. But on my radio show they call me Jeffy Big Bets, and I'm making my big bet here. And this is the hot take. My penalty shot. The Islanders are going to surprise all of us this year once again. They did lose a few key players, but I think they're taking that next step this year. And I think they're going to get over Tampa Bay in the conference finals. And whether it's going to go 7 games against Colorado, it's going to be a fantastic series. It's going to come right down to the end, and it's going to be fantastic. Probably one of the best we've ever seen. That being said,
I don't disagree with you either. Like, I like the Islanders. I
hate saying it, hurts me to say.
No, I don't disagree with that. That again, another team that's loaded with some really good young talent.
Yeah,
They coach really well, and we got to see them and how they play against Boston. Like they outplayed Boston. They outcoached Boston. They were better than Boston. So I only went with the Maple Leafs because I feel like there's just a ton of really good young talent that's there. And at some point, when you're paying all those dudes the money that they're paying, and they're so friggin' talented that they should get more out of what that team is. And I just think that the NHL needs Canada to be part of the conversation of either the conference finals or a Stanley Cup. Again, Montreal was there, but they didn't win it. I think the NHL needs Toronto and Montreal to be competitive and be part of their conversation to do something. But I like the Islanders, though.
Like I said, they call me Jeffy Big Bets. I'm gonna end it on that one just right there. So before we close out, say our goodbyes until next week. I need so this is gonna be a weekly thing now. We will start doing this every week. Only one game this weekend before our next podcast recording on Tuesday, and that is Saturday. That is the home opener puck drop at TD Garden against the Dallas Stars. Kevin, give me your prediction for Saturday. Who wins?
Bruins. But I mean, I think it's just kind of not, again, sounding like a homer. It's a Bruins podcast, all that stuff. No, I just think even as the team is, the Bruins are a playoff team. I don't know if the Stars are, so I think the first line carries us through a matchup like that. And we go, I'll go one step further. I think we win. I think we win 4-2.
Just remember, there's gonna be an Antoine Khudobin big video message on the board. Remember that it's his homecoming. This is his homecoming, and I don't think I think Ben Bishop is still hurt. I'm not 100% sure on that one. Main guy, by the way, just gonna hype that up for a second. The main guy, be cool. It would be cool to see Jeremy if Ben Bishop was healthy. It'd be cool to see Jeremy Swayman versus Ben Bishop, the two main goalies. But that's another topic for another day. Chris, give me your prediction for Saturday.
Bruins win home opener, and they're one of the reasons why it's not going to be the play of the first line. It's not going to be the play of the defense or the goaltending. The Fenway crowd is going to invade the TD Garden, and Boston is going to ride the wave of hockey's back. It is playoff baseball. The Red Sox are going to kick off the ALCS the night before. That crowd and fan base is going to rock the TD Garden, and the Bruins are going to win because of that and set the tone for the season. I think the Bruins win. They win handedly. I think 4-2 is a fair score. I think the fourth goal is an empty netter.
Yep.
And I think the Bruins, they take care of business in the home opener because that Fenway crowd is going to make their way over to the TD Garden, and they're going to rock the Garden. and we're going to kick off the regular season. I can't say that for the Celtics because there's 3 players with COVID, and I'm not as confident with that. But
That's a story for another day.
I don't do basketball. But with that being said, Bruins win because of the crowd.
I like it. I'm going to take the Bruins winning too. Nothing against Dallas. They made it through, I believe, the conference final. No.
Dallas. You want to know why we're going to screw Dallas too? Because the Patriots playing the Cowboys on Sunday, and we're going to put all that. We're going to tie all of it together. So
It's going to be one giant.
We love you, Josie, and we picked the Vegas Golden Knights to win, but screw the Cowboys.
It's just going to be one giant ass kicking.
Oh, dude, it's going to be a fantastic weekend in Boston sports. We're going to end it right there because that's all it's going to be. If the Patriots win on Sunday, it'll just be the icing on the cake because it's the Cowboys, and everyone loves beating America's team.
And if Bill Belichick gets, I don't know what Belichick. If Bill Belichick gets outcoached by that boob Mike McCarthy, then they go to 2-4, I'm out.
Chris is gonna have a story. Chris is gonna have a write up to do.
No, I'm gonna get aggressive on Twitter, and I think that I'm gonna upset some people, especially within this platform, who is very pro Patriots, and it's not always rainbows and butterflies. So
Mike Sullivan, watch out.
They need to. I just think that I think the Patriots they had no business winning on Sunday.
They sucked.
They were dogs.
Call it as it is. They were awful last weekend.
I know that we're a Bruins podcast, and I have a Mac Jones jersey. Let's pump the brakes a little bit because Mac Jones, yes, he's the quarterback of the future. Is he the Patriots quarterback of the future? I'm starting to think I'm not sure because the dude can't put the ball in the end zone. He can move the ball down the field. He can go 7 for 7 on a drive, and they get out of that. So we need that to change for the Patriots to be successful this weekend. But I don't want to go on a rant about the Patriots at the end of a Bruins podcast and get me all riled up at 11:18 at night.
And by the way, if you want any of your Bruins takes, Tuck Rule takes is the place to go. If we're gonna keep branding our podcast around here, Tuck Rule takes is the way to go around here. Thank you guys for listening. This was Couch Guy. This was Shorthanded Takes, the Boston Bruins podcast, brought to you by Couch Guy Sports, sponsored by Shocked Energy.
That's why I had all this energy at the end of the podcast.
Exactly. There you go. And it just go right to their website, shockedenergy.com, and use the code CGSN and get 10% off your next order. You guys enjoy the games this weekend, and next Tuesday we will recap those games and recap the upcoming games for that. I'm Jeff. That's Chris Henrique. That's Kevin Perdillos. You guys all have a great night.
Peace.